Deciding what you want to do with your life is definitely not an easy decision to take, but we are all forced to take this decision right after we graduate high school. Basically, teenagers deciding what they want to do for the rest of their lives. So realistically, how well equipped are we to take this decision? I'd argue that we are not really prepared for that. Back then, when I was 18, I decided to study computer science based only in the fact that I like to play video games and that I used to implement mods here and there sometimes. That's definitely not a valid reason to study computer science, but to be completely honest, that was my reasoning back then. Right now, I graduated from computer science a few years ago and I'm getting back into college, but this time I'm gonna study filmmaking. So the question is, how did I move from one area to the other and what do I expect from the future? I'm gonna tell you my story in parts. So let's start with part 1. Why I got into computer science in the first place. Throughout my school life, I was never an outstanding student. That's not to say I was a bad student either, I just went to school and I did my best and I had good grades and I had fun as well. So I basically before college spent 18 years just that, being a child, being a teenager, enjoying my time, playing video games, doing stuff with friends, but I never really had this burning passion. Sometimes you see people and there's just no question about it, that it's very clear what they are about. Whatever it is, it can be art, it can be math, but there are these people that are extremely passionate or very talented with something, so in a sense they have a clear path for the future. But I never really had that, so by the time I graduated high school, I didn't really have a path to follow because I had no special passion. So as I told you, based on the fact that I played video games and that I used to implement mods in Minecraft and in San Andreas, I decided to study computer engineering. To be completely honest, I was just following the path of least resistance, which is fair enough. I was very young, I was just 18 years old. So I went into computer engineering and I started studying computer engineering. It was kind of difficult because the intensity of college is definitely more than high school. So at the beginning it was a real shock. And I just didn't even think about it for 2 semesters. I just went with the current and I was studying for my exams and I didn't think about it much. But then suddenly it comes the question, what am I doing here? And I didn't really have an answer for that. So I was thinking about changing degrees, I was thinking about maybe studying something else, but the problem was the same that I had after graduating high school. I do not have any particular passion for anything. I do not have any particular path that I want to follow, so if I don't have a plan, I might as well stay here. More than thinking about changing degrees, I just kept going. I just kept going because I didn't really have any other idea of what I wanted to do with my life. And eventually I did enjoy computer science and I worked as a programmer for a few years and it's completely fine. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's good money, it's good opportunities, but it definitely was not fulfilling. At this point I really think about how maybe if I knew what filmmaking was, like if I really knew what filmmaking means in high school, I would have done that from the very beginning. But that doesn't really matter now, does it? So I graduated college and it was the same point where I was when I graduated high school. I had this degree, I had something that I could continue doing, but just the idea of being a programmer full time was so unappealing to me that I wasn't looking forward to it. It was very unfulfilling. Computer science and programming being the one and only thing in my life, I found that idea and I still find that idea very depressing and I wanted to do something more. And that's how we get to part 2. How does filmmaking fit into the picture, into this story? I have been watching movies forever. I always enjoyed movies, I always had like this passion, but I never really thought much about it. So it wasn't until I started college that I wanted to document my life a little bit. So just with my phone I started taking little videos here and there, but it was nothing more than just an intent to document my life. And then I found YouTube. I was a very lonely guy in college, so I spent a lot of time, and I'm telling you, that's a lot of time on YouTube for me, and that sounds fucking cringe, but it's true. The YouTubers were my friends back then. And YouTube has this very special place for me, this very position where when you see a YouTuber do something, you think to yourself, oh, I can do that. Oh, they are just regular people, I can do exactly the same thing. And that very much sparked the idea of me that I could be doing videos, that I could be doing storytelling and filmmaking. And I never got that idea from watching movies, because movies, or the mainstream movies, are these highly produced, very expensive productions that need a lot of people, a lot of money, a lot of time, special effects, everything, makeup. So it's so far away removed from anything you can do as an individual that I never had the idea that I could do it myself, even though you can do it at a very small scale. So for me, YouTube was like the first step towards grabbing a camera and trying to tell a narrative through video. At the beginning, I just wanted to make YouTube videos like this one, just talking to the camera, maybe vlogging, but that quickly evolved to wanting to tell my own stories and wanting to implement music. And I still remember the first time that I recorded some clips from a trip, and I absolutely hated recording in public, but I still did it, very shyly, but I did it. And then I put those clips into my editing software, some free software, I don't really remember the name, and just putting some music with the clips, and it's like magic. It's just the mix of the clips with the music creates absolute magic. It becomes a story, it becomes so much more. And that's how I got into filmmaking. So from there I started making my own videos. I started to learn how to edit, how to film. I used to watch a lot of videos and read a lot about camera and equipment and what good filmmaking is, framing, light, all of these things. And I got into that, and I was working on my own projects. By the time I graduated computer science, I was already, I would say, pretty competent in filmmaking. And that's how I got into filmmaking. I basically took it up as a hobby. The funny part is that, as I told you, I never really had hobbies before, like nothing that really stuck. All throughout college I did, and I learned, and I went into filmmaking. So this is the first time that something actually stuck for more than a year. I have been working on my filmmaking for 5 years, working with cameras and mics and stuff. And that's how I got into filmmaking. So at the end of college, I am again in this position where I have my degree and I am very unfulfilled by being a full-time programmer, and I have developed my abilities. It was a time to decide whether this filmmaking thing was maybe feasible for the future. I decided to apply to both a master's degree in informatics and film school. And that's how we get to part 3, film school. I was extremely fortunate to have been accepted in both the master's degree and film school. In a way, I was kind of expecting that the decision was gonna be taken for me, right? Maybe I was gonna be accepted just in the master's degree and okay, that's what I'm gonna do. The decision was taken away from me. But I had to actually take a decision. And I decided to go to film school because the way I saw it, I am still young, I am still in my 20s, and this was the only chance in my life that I was gonna get to actually go to film school and see if this one thing that I had been working towards for the last 5 years could actually amount to something. Just applying to film school was kind of a big deal for me because I had been trying to improve myself, and being rejected from film school was a very real possibility, and I was very afraid that if I was rejected, that was gonna take me out completely, like I wasn't gonna be interested in doing films anymore, so I was worried about that. Anyway, I decided to apply. To apply to film school, you usually have to create a portfolio, a series of videos or scripts or something to show your work, to show that you have engaged with the art before. And that's precisely what I did. I made a few videos and I applied with my videos To be completely honest, just the fact that I was accepted in film school was extremely reassuring for me. It was the first kind of validation that I had had regarding my filmmaking throughout my whole life. So just being accepted was proof that I was going in the right way, and was something that I had done myself alone, that I had built myself. So just applying to film school was very scary, but at the end, just being accepted was very rewarding for me. And now we arrive to part 4 of the story, which is, was it worth it? Is film school worth it? The whole idea of whether film school is worth it or not is in itself enough material for a new video. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'm just gonna give you a very brief summary. Definitely the most valuable things that I have had in film school are, first of all, the fact that I take myself seriously, and I take my art seriously, and I take my videos and my creativity and my projects seriously. Because before that, when I was studying engineering surrounded by engineers, I don't know, nobody actually told me that it was silly, but it just feels very, very, I don't know, you feel like you're doing something you shouldn't, or maybe I did. So when I got to film school and I found all of these people and all of these professors that were actually willing to talk to me about my projects and my ideas seriously, and giving me feedback and talking about it, and just taking it as a real thing. That was very good to me. It was definitely the most important aspect of film school, the fact that I take myself and my projects seriously now. And the second is definitely the people. The people that you meet in film school, I can relate to a lot of them. Like, it's silly how well you get along with these people, or at least me. You actually find people that you can connect to, people that have the same interests as you, and you just get along with them, and you can talk to them about movies, and that's great. You can work with them, and yeah, I'd say those are the 2 best points of film school so far: the people and the fact that you take your ideas and your creativity seriously. For me, the first semester of film school was a little bit weird, because obviously I was changing the narrative of my life. I was going from being an engineer to being an artist. So I was not only changing the story of who I was to everybody else, but I was doing the same to me. I had to tell the story of my life to myself to make it make sense. Up until film school, I saw myself as an engineer, and now I was in this completely different place doing something completely different. So I was basically reconstructing my person. An aspect of that I didn't particularly like and that I changed was that I was initially rejecting everything that had to do with computer engineering and programming. In a way, I understand why I did it. I really wanted to create this new persona. I wanted to create this new version of myself, and I didn't think programming and computer engineering was something that was part of that new person that I was. So initially, it was my instinct to push it away, to never think about it, to try to make this work, and that's done, and that was wasted years, and I am doing this now, which is definitely the wrong way to approach a change like this. When you go to film school, you realize that going to film school is not really necessary. But it's kind of silly that, at least me, I had to go all the way to film school to realize that. What I mean by that is that you can always make films. Film school is just gonna give you these 3 perfect encapsulated years with people like you to make all the films that you can. And that's in itself invaluable, and you're gonna have access to equipment that you wouldn't, like, that otherwise you wouldn't have access to. But that's it. Film school is not gonna make you a filmmaker. And it's up to you. You are the only thing standing in your way. All you need is a cell phone, and that's it. You can do films. And I know this is a very cliche thing to say, but it's insane. It's insane that I cannot do a movie because I didn't go to film school, or because I don't have this camera or whatever. But film school is nothing. They are gonna maybe teach you something about cameras, and that's the whole idea. But at the end of the day, you could very easily go to film school and graduate and still have no idea what's going on and have no placing in the industry. It's all up to you. It's definitely all up to you. And see that not as a way to convince you not to go to film school, but as a complete empowerment of your ability to do something. You can just do it. You don't need validation from anyone. You don't need to go to film school. You can just start in whatever way you can. You can make videos with your family, you can make videos alone, you can make short films, you can make animations with your iPad. There is an infinity way of things that you can do. You can do this. All you need is the will to do it. And finally we arrive to part 5. So I have my computer engineering degree that I do not want to leave behind, and I have this film passion. So what I'm thinking for the future is that hopefully I'm gonna be able to work as a programmer half-time and maybe work on my own projects. Ideally I'd say I will just work on my own projects full-time, but I don't think that's very realistic of me to say. And I am gonna continue programming and I am gonna continue filmmaking. You can be good at more than just one thing, and you have so many different things that you can do, so don't reduce yourself to one thing. You can do a lot of stuff, and that's what I think I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna continue doing both because I think it's valuable and I think I can. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to have another video about film school or something more specific, let me know. And thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.